When we mention Egypt, we often immediately think of the pyramids and the Sphinx, with the body of a lion and the face of a human. Along with them are magnificent temples. However, for the ancient Egyptian civilization, which was born more than 6,000 years before Christ, there are still too many mysteries to be discovered, especially the discoveries underground that could completely change our perception of history. In some ancient Egyptian documents, there are always records of an underground labyrinth of enormous scale and complex structure. This labyrinth has more than 3,000 rooms, filled with murals and incredible decorations. It can completely rival any ancient monument that has been discovered in Egypt to date. Everyone thought that this underground labyrinth was just a legend, until a few years ago, an archaeological team announced the discovery of this labyrinth. Today, let's learn together about the underground labyrinth of Egypt. In 450 BC, the Greek historian Herodotus visited Egypt. He was immediately fascinated by this ancient country. He then recorded what he saw and heard during his trip in a great work, Histories, which includes a section on Egypt. He mentioned an underground palace. He wrote, "This is a work that I have seen with my own eyes, beyond any description. If someone were to bring the greatest works of the Greeks and compare them, they would seem insignificant. Even the pyramids themselves are surpassed by it." This passage, in Book 2, page 148 of Histories, has sparked much imagination for posterity. The structure that Herodotus referred to is a giant underground labyrinth. According to his account, he also described in detail that the overall layout of the labyrinth underground is very unique. On the outside are 54 massive stone columns. In the middle are 12 palaces, 6 facing north and 6 facing south. At the center of the palaces is a giant labyrinth. Those who walk in it must be guided by a priest. Otherwise, they will surely not be able to escape this labyrinth. This labyrinth is not entirely built underground. There is another level above ground. Both levels combined have more than 3,000 rooms. One can imagine how large this structure. Island Herodotus also described many details of this labyrinth. He said that the ceiling and walls of the labyrinth are all made of stone. The walls are decorated entirely with stone carvings and sculptures. At the center of the labyrinth is a pyramid, 40 orgia high, about 73 meters. In other words, at the center of this underground labyrinth is a small pyramid. A palace with such a structure is unique in Egypt. Regarding the location of this underground labyrinth, Herodotus wrote in his book that they decided to build a labyrinth located above Lake Moeris, almost opposite the city of Crocodilopolis. Lake Moeris is today's Lake Karun, 80 kilometers south of the Egyptian capital, Cairo, and Crocodilopolis is the city of Fayum in central Egypt. Looking at the map today, you can see that it is above Lake Karun and opposite Fayum. Fortunately, Herodotus also mentioned that the above-ground structure of the labyrinth also includes a pyramid, named the Pyramid of Amenemhat III. This pyramid is today's Hawara Pyramid. Due to its destruction, the Hawara Pyramid today is just a small mound. However, from the open space in front of the pyramid, you can see something that looks like ruins. On the ground in front of the pyramid, there are many cut stones, which look very much like the ruins of a destroyed above-ground structure. It was destroyed. Furthermore, from the many stones scattered on the ground, you can see intricate carving details. This is clearly the parts of some kind of palace. And these stones, which still look very exquisite after thousands of years, have not been moved or stolen by anyone. One can imagine how magnificent the original structure was, so much so that these stones were only considered the most ordinary things. This Hawara pyramid was built by Pharaoh Amenemhat III. The pyramid was built around 1900 BC. If the underground labyrinth is located here, then it has a history of 3,000 900 years. And this labyrinth, as described, probably stretched across this small river, with an incredibly large area. From the reconstruction drawings, one can also see the enormous scale of this labyrinth. As for why this labyrinth and its above-ground structures were destroyed, there are actually records. During the reign of Ptolemy II, about 200 years before Christ, that is, about 200 years after Herodotus visited the underground labyrinth, Ptolemy at that time, to commemorate his wife, had the entire structure above ground of the Hawara pyramid demolished. A large number of stone columns and building materials were used to build a palace in Crocodilopolis. Therefore, this place became a pile of rubble. After that, the entrance to the underground labyrinth was also sealed. No one knew how to enter the underground palace. Coupled with constant warfare over thousands of years, this labyrinth became even more of a mystery. Based on Herodotus's description, a 17th century German scholar, Athanasius Kircher, drew a map of this Egyptian underground labyrinth. The 12 opposing palaces are connected to each other. The decorations inside each palace are drawn in great detail. Kircher also specifically noted that inside the Hawara pyramid, there is a passage that can lead directly to this labyrinth, because this pyramid is the burial place of the mummy of Pharaoh Amenemhat III. We know that after 1500 BC, the pharaohs of Egypt were all buried in the Valley of the Kings in Luxor. There, they built lavish underground palaces for the pharaohs. Before that, most pharaohs were buried in pyramids. Therefore, it is very likely that an underground labyrinth was built for the pyramid of Pharaoh Amenemhat III as a dwelling place for his soul after death. Furthermore, it was not only Herodotus who recorded this underground labyrinth. Other famous ancient Greek historians, like Diodorus Siculus, and the Roman historian Strabo, all recorded this underground labyrinth in their works. They, like Herodotus, personally visited Egypt and recorded what they saw and heard. So, does this magnificent underground labyrinth really exist? The answer to this question did not have a breakthrough until 2008. After thousands of years since the Hawara pyramid was destroyed, many people have come here to search for this mysterious labyrinth. Among them, the most famous was in 1888, the famous British archaeologist, who was also an Egyptologist, Sir Flinders Petrie, claimed to have found the labyrinth. Petrie was passionate about Egyptian culture. He spent most of his life on archaeology in Egypt. He was determined to find the underground labyrinth that Herodotus had described. After arriving here, he organized manpower to carry out excavations, and made some progress. But just as his excavation work had begun, he was ordered by the Egyptian government at the time to stop on the grounds that he was destroying ancient Egyptian relics. After that, the work on the underground labyrinth was abandoned. In 1889, Sir Petrie recorded in one of his books the content about the underground labyrinth site. He said that he had discovered the chambers of the pyramid, but he did not open these chambers. What attracted his attention the most was still the labyrinth here. At the same time, he also left many survey records of the Hawara pyramid area, including records when he entered the Hawara pyramid, recording the chambers and passages inside. He claimed to have discovered a passage from inside the pyramid leading to the underground palace, and had made detailed measurements and records. To this day, due to the high groundwater level in the area, the underground passages inside the pyramid are flooded. These archaeological records of Sir Petrie have left a very important clue for posterity. In 2008, an archaeological team from Belgium came to the Hawara pyramid. They brought with them advanced underground exploration equipment to use high technology to solve the mystery of the underground labyrinth. Because the current Egyptian government does not allow foreign archaeological teams to excavate ancient Egyptian sites on their own, Including Egypt's own attitude towards these relics now is also a priority of protection, not easy to excavate. Therefore, this archaeological team hoped to use some equipment from the geological exploration industry to see if there really is an underground palace here or not. The archaeological team was sponsored by an artist named Louis de Cordier and led by him. They cooperated with 2 Egyptian universities with the permission of the Supreme Council of Antiquities of Egypt. They came to the Hawara pyramid. They hired some local people to assist them in using the exploration equipment. These devices are mainly based on ground-penetrating radar, suitable for exploring underground geophysical properties. Relying on the antenna on the radar to scan underground, it can find buried things. There is also an electrical resistivity tomography machine, which can perform large-scale underground scanning and draw an underground map. In this way, they conducted 22 ultra-low frequency mapping sessions on the open ground in front of the Hawara pyramid. They then converted this data into images. Finally, they got an amazing image. Within a range of 100x, 150 meters, at a depth of 8 meters underground, a grid-like underground structure appeared, which seems quite regular. The yellow part is the structure of these passages. This is extremely similar to the structure that Herodotus described in his book. Furthermore, they also scanned the peripheral area of the site and found some unusual geological GPR data. After converting it into an image, they believed that these were the huge stone columns on the outermost ring of the labyrinth. In addition, they also found the passage of the pyramid at a depth of 5 meters underground, which Sir Petrie had mentioned in his 1888 survey. They found that this underground labyrinth is located at a depth of about 9 meters. This is a very deep structure, so it is very difficult for ordinary people to discover it. Because excavation was not allowed, they dug a 4-meter deep test pit on the outermost ring of the labyrinth site, that is, outside the scope regulated by the Egyptian government. They dug a 4-meter deep test pit to investigate whether the soil here was formed naturally or not. Then they were surprised to find that the soil layer here has obvious abnormalities. There are traces of artificial backfilling, because to build such a large underground structure, it is necessary to dig a large pit and then backfill the soil bit by bit after construction is complete. Although thousands of years have passed, it is still possible to draw conclusions through soil analysis. What is more amazing is that even in the peripheral area of the site, they still dug up some stones made of limestone and clay. These stones have obvious artificial traces, but these stones were clearly destroyed. They speculated that this labyrinth was destroyed by a Ptolemy. If this is true, it is a great pity. They then published this discovery in the Journal of Astronomy and Geophysics, hoping that the Egyptian side could carry out excavations. But this discovery was the result of cooperation between the Belgian archaeological team and Egyptian universities, yet it did not receive any response from the Egyptian side. No official Egyptian agency announced this discovery. This left the members of the archaeological team very confused. Later, a member named Ben van Kerkwijk said that due to the obstruction from the Egyptian National Security Agency, the Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities of Egypt ordered a halt to all announcements of the discovery at the Pyramid of Hawara. The reason was not disclosed. The sponsor of the archaeological team, de Cordier, waited patiently for 2 years, hoping that the Supreme Council of Antiquities of Egypt would recognize and announce this great discovery. But the matter did not progress. The Egyptian side had no intention of explaining any issue. So in 2010, de Cordier created a website to publish part of the archaeological content about the Hawara Pyramid Labyrinth, so that the whole world could know about this discovery. This is also the content that we have seen in the previous section. So why didn't the Egyptian government announce this discovery? This Hawara underground labyrinth, after thousands of years, through records and continuous surveys, the possibility of its existence is very high. Moreover, based on its unique scale and shape, if it can be excavated and displayed before everyone, it will be the most magnificent underground palace in Egypt, possibly surpassing the pyramids and becoming the new wonder of the world for Egypt. However, this survey, cooperated by the Belgian archaeological team and the Egyptian government, although it has provided a lot of convincing evidence, the Egyptian government still refuses to answer the mystery here. There are two possibilities. One is that before the cooperation, the Egyptian government hoped to get the help of foreign archaeological teams to solve the mystery here. But when they learned the results, they began to burn the bridge, because the Egyptian government may just want to know what this is, but not really want to excavate this place. The second possibility is that this discovery may have deeper implications. For example, contrary to the existing history of Egypt, because we know that the current history is actually gradually edited based on the foundation of the predecessors, we don't have a time machine. We can't see the real history in the past. We can only speculate on what happened in history through various books. This is inevitably prone to errors, and once a relic or artifact is unearthed that affects the current history, it must be treated with caution. For example, the Sanxingdui site, excavated in China, its artifacts were completely different from the traditional artifacts of China. There is no trace of cultural exchange with the Central Plains at that time. Moreover, in terms of chronology, the bronze-making technology of the Sanxingdui period and its gold crafting techniques also far surpassed the early Shang dynasty. This shows that history does have gaps. Before clarifying everything, it is necessary to carefully study the unearthed artifacts. Of course, the above are just my personal opinions, just to provide everyone with some directions for thought. Anyway, the existence of the labyrinth underground is still very much worth looking forward to. With the development of technology, in the future, there will certainly be more advanced underground exploration equipment that does not require excavation. We can still get a visual image, which is very helpful for understanding what secrets are hidden beneath the ground. Because under our feet, there are definitely still many things hidden that we don't know, far beyond our imagination. Besides the pyramids and pharaohs' tombs that we already know, I will continue to explore more mysterious content about Egypt. If you like this video, remember to follow the channel. Please like and leave your comments. See you in the next video.